so many in preschool. You don't have any place here. Another point is when you have free speech, which, free speech, you're entitled. There's always these people that do it and then they harm somebody with it, mentally or physically. You don't get to at an expense of another person to make these kind of comments. See, that's what happens when you make smug, idiotic comments. You draw a gray line there. When there's a way to make your point without being an ass, like I said earlier. So you lose all credibility. Now, you don't make jokes or instigate a problem at the expense of others. That's kind of a gray area right there. Okay, ponder this also. On this book, in this book, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, the author talks about the treatment of his son and how his son was not doing well. But he realized something. Now this relates to what you did as far as telling me to go fix myself. This personality ethic, I began to realize, was a subconscious source of the solution Sandra and I were attempting to use with our son. As I thought more deeply about the difference between the personality and character ethics, I realized that Sandra and I had been getting social mileage out of our children's good behavior. And in our eyes, the son simply didn't measure up. Our image of ourselves and our role as good, caring parents were even deeper than our image of our son, and perhaps influenced it. There was a lot more wrapped up in the way we were seeing and handling the problem than our concern for our son's welfare. As Sandra and I talked, we became painfully aware of the powerful influence of our own character and motives and of our perception of him. We knew that social comparison motivates were out of harmony with our deeper values could lead to conditional love, eventually our son's lessened sense of self-worth. So we determined to focus our efforts on us, not on our techniques, but on our deepest motives and our perception of him. Instead of trying to change him, this analogy, we try to stand apart, to separate us from him, to see and to sense his identity, individuality, separateness, and worth. Well, that is something you obviously cannot do with people. So you respond in your smug, narcissistic way, like I stated earlier. Through our deep thought and exercise of faith and prayer, we began to see our son in terms of his own uniqueness. We saw within him layers and layers of potential that we realized at his own pace and speed. We decided to relax and get out of his way and let his own personality emerge. That's your problem. You don't know how to live and let live. We saw our natural role as being able to affirm, enjoy, and value, and we also constantly worked on our motives and cultivated internal sources of security that our own feelings of worth were not depending on our children's acceptable behavior. I don't do socially acceptable. You want some free to be, hug a tree guy to talk about stuff that you want to hear, go somewhere else. I talk about the truth. If you can't stand it, get out of the fire. Don't make some stupid, idiotic statements to me like you think you know what you're talking about, because you don't. As I'm quoting again, as we loosened up our own perception of our son and developed value-based morals, new feelings began to emerge. We found ourselves enjoying him instead of comparing or judging. You don't even know what you're talking about when you judge. We stopped trying to clone him in our own image and measure him against social expectations. Again, I don't do socially acceptable. We stopped trying to kindly, positively manipulate him to an acceptable social mold. Because we saw him as fundamentally adequate and able to cope with life. We stopped protecting him against the ridicule of others. Well, I guess you're doing a double whammy because you like to ridicule, but you don't even know what you're talking about. Okay. Enough of this.